Good evening, everyone. Ian Patrick here, and I'm back from quite a long break, so I might be a little bit rusty, but don't beat me up over it. Tonight's review is pretty fitting for myself. It's a romance, costume, period drama. It's a romance. Tonight's review is 1936's Camille, and it stars Greta Garbo, Robert Taylor, it has Lionel Barrymore, and also Henry Daniell. So it's an MGM picture, and the great Irving Thalberg would produce it, and it would have been one of his last movies that he produced. He suddenly died in 1936 at a very young age, but it was a story that was originally written by Alexandre Dumas, the great French author. And for me, it's like a story where, have you ever loved someone so much and they don't return the love back to you? And it's very painful to love someone just immensely and they don't give the same amount back to you. But I'll get to that when I talk about the plot more. Um, so this film, it's regarded as possibly Greta Garbo's best performance ever. A lot of critics believe that. The catchphrase for the film was actually Greta Garbo loves Robert Taylor. At the time, Robert Taylor was very fresh to Hollywood. He was kind of the up and coming young guy talent. Lionel Barrymore in the picture, he plays the father of Robert Taylor, and Robert Taylor's name is Armand. Greta Garbo's character is Marguerite, and her character seemed very natural for her. And I think this is one of the reasons why people think it's her best performance ever. She just, in her personal life, had a very natural aloofness, and she definitely played the character like this in Camille. And Henry Daniell, he plays the Baron, who is just this rich aristocrat that Greta Garbo gives herself to because she's a French prostitute, more or less. So it's a love affair story. It's all about Robert Taylor's character, Armand. He's so in love with this woman, Greta Garbo, who's just beautiful, Marguerite. Every time he's seen her in the past, he's never spoken to her, but he can remember every time he's seen her. And then finally they go to the theater and she sees him. They get into a great conversation, but she still seems like she's not that interested in him because she ends up learning that he's not super wealthy like, for example, the Baron. And it's pretty much a story, a cat and mouse chase where, or not exactly like that, but it's a story where Robert Taylor's character Armand, he's just chasing after her. He tells her how much he loves her, and she's just like, "Oh, really? What can I do about it? And what do you expect? What do you expect me to say?" She's just very kind of cold to his love confessions, and she's very unsentimental about herself, but she doesn't want to hurt Robert Taylor at the start, or actually the whole film. She doesn't want to hurt Robert Taylor because he's younger than she is, and she kind of might see it as puppy love at first, but then it turns into something more serious. And Robert Taylor plays this character very well, just all over her. And in fact, I would call it like a puppy just giving, just her owner can do, the puppy's owner can do no wrong to him. They have excellent chemistry, like I said, an older woman and a younger guy. Um, but that doesn't mean that, their love can't be true, of course. There's a line that he says to her in the film. He says, "No one has ever loved you as I love you." And Marguerite, she just says, kind of with a smile, "That might be true, but what can I do about it?" This pretty much sums up Marguerite's character for half the film at least. He's like a puppy dog. Also, there's a interesting scene where the Baron, he's playing the piano, having this conversation with Greta Garbo, Marguerite, and it's very strange in how Cukor directed it. They're just kind of laughing like ha ha ha, like insulting each other, but ha ha ha, while he's still playing the piano. Who's answering? Who's that at the door? Of course, it's Robert Taylor, and it's just a very strange scene to note. Filmed in an interesting style, so keep your eyes open for that. Um, this is a spoiler alert for the ending, so if you haven't seen it, please come back to the review. Okay, so in Garbo's death scene, apparently they had to do several takes on it because Greta Garbo just couldn't stop bursting out in uncontrollable laughter. I don't know why she couldn't stop laughing, but they had to film it several times. Her character Marguerite is suffering from tuberculosis throughout the whole film, and that ends up being the reason why she dies. And Cukor, the director, was interesting. He said that the way he summed up Marguerite's character is, he said, quote, "She's the author of her own misery." I thought that was a very interesting way to put it. And I have a few things to read from my Robert Taylor book. Interesting things about the filming. Though actresses both here and abroad were asking to be cast opposite the It Boy, Robert Taylor, MGM was in a predicament as to what to do with him next. They worried about the type of publicity he was getting. His being called beautiful, dainty, cute, and a sissy could only lead to one conclusion: he was not a man. The press had convinced the male public that Taylor was queer, and his heavily powdered complexion on the screen only confirmed their beliefs. Mayer did not know how long the moviegoers could accept this virgin idol nonsense, though its effect was making his studio millions of dollars. He had a plan, but not now. Camille was a victory and would tranquilize his fans for the time being. I love how the author, or how they called him a virgin idol, because he's so pure and innocent in this film. He's definitely not the bad boy at all. He's the type of guy that a mom would just love to have around. And also, Robert Taylor, he did an interview at the time of the making of Camille, and this is what he had to say about it. A woman reporter asked him for an interview, saying she was going to call her article, "Has Robert Taylor Changed?" This is what he said: "She had written a story about me over a year ago, and she wanted to compare notes, yesterday and today. When she realized I hadn't changed, I guess she was disturbed that she didn't have a story after all. She had made up her mind that I was different, and I had made up my mind to prove to her that I wasn't. Then she got on the subject of Garbo. What did I think of her and all that hogwash? I said I didn't want to talk about Garbo. No one talks about Garbo. The woman accused me of hating Garbo. When I told her I had no reason to hate her, she accused me of being in love with her. The interview ended with this dame telling me whom I liked and whom I disliked, how I had changed from an easygoing guy to a tough interview type. Well, at least it was nice to know what and who I am. Whatever," and that's the end of his quote, "whatever was written about him did not alter what his fans thought. Letters were pouring in at $30,000 a month, and he was drawing a salary of $2,500 a week." So, interesting stuff, his relationship with Greta Garbo, and I have a little bit more information on that. Apparently, during the filming of the movie, Garbo kind of distanced herself from Robert Taylor. This is what Cukor said: "Garbo didn't talk much to Robert Taylor. She was polite but distant. She had to tell herself that he was the ideal young man, and she knew if they became friendly, she'd learn he was just another nice kid." And then also, he's talking about this scene at the start of the movie when she walks into the theater, when Marguerite does. And it's very interesting. He says, Cukor says, I wanted to show that Marguerite was a public woman, that she went to the theater to be seen. She had to walk through a crowded lobby of men. I wanted her to walk through to show herself as if on a parade for clients. At first, Garbo walked through rather quickly, as if she didn't want to be seen. I might have said, walk through a little more brazenly, a little more slowly. But I didn't. I realized she was right. She could slip through, and you knew damn well the men would look at her anyway. And I actually noticed that when I watched this scene. She's very aloof. She just kind of walks through the theater, doesn't really pay any mind to the men. But of course, the men are all looking at her. And I just thought it was very interesting that Cukor noticed that too. So the movie itself was a very big success for MGM. It made $388,000, which was a lot of money back then. And it has always been well received by critics back then and even now. So I hope you like my review of Camille. I definitely recommend you see it. And my rating for the film is 3.5 stars. It's not a perfect film, but it's very close to being perfect. Is it Greta Garbo's best picture ever? Could be. I haven't seen too many of your films, but it was definitely natural. She played it like it was her, pretty much. But that's going to be it for this review, guys. Stick around for more. More is coming. I promise. I promise I'm back. But have a good night, everyone.